Buddy, I'm just making it on day 1,200 days since Richard vanished from his barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. But that's really not the narrative, is it? And so I find Richard Halliday. Um, the alternative narratives that have been turned into the CID and the FBI. The CID and the FBI have these witness statements, and I'm going to go over them today for these alternative narratives on what happened to Richard. The narrative that they tried to put out, and the narrative that has been um, being exposed, and not by us, not by me, but just the truth coming out, like the stones of Ireland that I talk about. Um, so we're going to burn the midnight oil, but we can put the clock back. So God is good. We could put the clock back, and I can see myself, and I know it's very late, but I wanted to come on before the day was done um, to talk about, today was a wonderful day. I'm in a really great mood. Rob and I have been made um, grandparents again. Number 9, little Mary Ruth. Praise God, little Mary Ruth has come into the world. And we're just humbled by the blessing of having these beautiful 9 grandchildren, and sad um, for Richard that he was taken from us so early. Um, yeah, so it's a very happy day today, but we definitely need to continue to get justice for our son Richard. He's the godfather of our eldest grandson, James. And yeah, so we can't forget, we can never forget him. And especially when you go through the narratives that I just did that were turned into the CID and FBI. These are are statements made to the CID and the FBI. So, and when you look at who they're from, that really gives them power. And to see the command structure and the CID structure be so shaken in the wake of Vanessa Guillen and everything else that was going on there, to be so shaken, to be so destroyed that they put Richard in a cold case. And now, we just asked for clarity again because Richard's case is open. So they say it's open, yet we have 5 major statements made to the command, to the CID, to the FBI that haven't been reviewed. Matter of fact, one has been scrubbed from Richard's file, and I'm wondering if these others have been scrubbed also. They're scrubbing the alternative narrative from Richard's file. That is, that is crazy, because who is that protecting? That's protecting Leilani Hart. That's protecting Dallas Hart. That's protecting James Hart. Who are these people that they get this kind of protection or this kind of help to scrub evidence from uh, a missing soldier, a code red soldier, a murdered soldier's case, right? Um, so it is, I want to go through these because I think it's very, very important to understand that the narrative that they were trying to put out, and they tried to, believe it or not, they really did. At the beginning, they tried to say that Richard walked away. Okay. They tried to say that Richard walked away and that he's AWOL, that he turned into a deserter, and that, he just, wherever he is, right? Danae tried to participate in that. You have to remember that Danae Katzen is the daughter of Tanya Katzen, that seems to be the owner of 3905 Bliss Avenue. Okay, with and related to the Rocha family. So this is, and Belen was trying to tell us that Richard walked away. Jay Paulin was trying to tell us that Richard walked away. So the very people that seem to be involved in the foul play, right? That are suspects in the foul play, the murder of Richard, the covering up of the murder of Richard, the covering up of getting rid of his remains, right? These very people, Tavita Noosa, Leilani Hart, and they all know each other. Leilani Hart absolutely knows Danae Katzen. Absolutely, they all know each other because of working for each other and with each other. Um, and, so these very people are trying to tell us at the very beginning that Richard walked away. And then when um, at the very beginning, what they tried to do is just take Richard off the rolls, take him off the rolls, and just make us go away. And then because of uh, 40,000 shares of our daughter's post, they brought us back, brought Richard back onto the rolls and assigned us dirty agent in the CID to be Marlon Soto, right? To take over Richard's case. Dirty agent to take over this case, okay? He tried to do from the very beginning what the command tried to do, because this came from the PAO. Yeah. This came from the PAO. So this came from the command before it came from Soto, Dirty Agent Soto. This came from the Dirty Command through PAO, Lieutenant Colonel Allie Payne, the smear campaign. The smear campaign started with Lieutenant Colonel Allie Payne, which is the mouthpiece for the command there on Fort Bliss, the office of the commanding general of Fort Bliss. Okay, so that's where it started. And then Marlon Soto came in, and they were trying to say that Richard was AWOL, that Richard was a deserter, and then that didn't work. The evidence, did not hold up to the scrutiny. There was no CCTV footage. There was no alliance in the witness testimony. They had no uh, screenshots, no text messages, no anything from Richard indicating that he had walked away, that he was going to walk away, anything like that. What they did have um, was troubles, right? They had troubles, and so they started to switch the narrative. Even though they would never admit that the narrative um, didn't didn't hold up to scrutiny. They attempted to switch a little bit, and that's when Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe uh, contacted us and wanted to come and visit us here in South Carolina to tell us that our son had committed suicide. That's what they believe happened, and of course that didn't hold up to scrutiny at all. And so those two, not by us, uh, but by the CID, by the command, they could not get a narrative going. And walking away and deserter, being yellow Interpol, never having his name on the federal criminal database, um, nixing that he was ever labeled or designated a deserter in any sort of way, and they couldn't do it because what were they going to do when they had the remains? What were they going to do? But they were hiding the remains. But what were they going to do? They could never, um, and that is curious. That really proves a point that they had something that they were not sharing, because otherwise they would have designated him a deserter. And this is before the designation of the first CONUS Test 1 missing soldier under the Vanessa Guillen first, the Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flowchart, right? This is before then, because that happened on Thanksgiving, the 25th of November of 2020. So before then, they were shuffling. They didn't know what to do. And Richard would have been a deserter, right? He would have been for some period, because when we called at the end of August, when we called, they said that he was a deserter. So why didn't he show up on the federal criminal database? Why wasn't he a red Interpol? And just because they have him on Interpol is also a huge indication of what kind of case this is. You just don't go on Interpol, okay? Especially if you're an AWOL soldier. So for being on Interpol as a yellow flag, as a yellow Interpol designation, um, is a huge indication of what had transpired earlier. So it wasn't us that designated Richard or crossed out any kind of potential narrative or possibility of what happened to Richard. It was the CID, it was the command structure that did it for us. We just had to, read what was happening and put the pieces together. And, I didn't make up the yellow Interpol. I didn't make up that Richard was never on the federal criminal database. I did not make up that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe was looking for Richard's remains at Christmas time, that he was looking for Richard's remains with the State Department, interacting with the State Department in Mexico, the U.S. State Department, to look for Richard's remains. And I did not make our witnesses say what they did. So this is just me reporting on what has happened, okay? And I think that's very, very important. I never knew Nadal Baim. I never knew him. I didn't know he existed. I did not know of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. I knew about 32nd ADCOM because that was Richard's command, and that used to be my dad's command when he was there, serving right there on Fort Bliss. So I knew of 32nd ADCOM, or the air, uh, what is it? Missile Defense Command, something like that. Um, it'll come to me. It's late. It's midnight. We're burning the midnight oil. So I absolutely was familiar with that. And But he walks in and he claims association with the FBI. This is very important because it gives him access to information. It gives him a level of, uh, let's just say, a certain class level um, where people would want to share information with him. You know, so if uh, of course, his son-in-law is Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd AdCom. If Bradford Bugado knows his father with the FBI, working with the FBI, um, then that gives him some reason or safety. This gives him uh, a reason because of an intelligence level of security that he feels like he can share information with his father-in-law. Okay, and so being working with the FBI and this G3 lieutenant colonel, they felt free to discuss things because they had clearance, right? They had clearance. And so this is very important to know who they are and what and why that information could be shared. It's not like he was just some guy, right? Where dirty agent Marlon Soto said he's just some guy. No, he's not just some guy. He has a level of clearance, he has a level of access to intelligence. And of course, Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado in the G3 of the 32nd AdCom, Richard's command, absolutely had access to intelligence. And there was this freedom that they could talk about it. So, because Nadal told me he heard it from a lieutenant colonel. So, that, he was giving it weight. He was giving it weight and legitimacy. And so we turned that all in, and things went really crazy because the FBI absolutely took over the case on that day. Okay, on that day, they took over the case because we turned it into the FBI, and this involved um, an FBI employee, right? So, and what did he say? He said Richard was dead, and and it was a secret, okay, because he went shh. This was intelligence that he was leaking out, and it was a secret, and it needed to stay a secret. That's why he went shh. So this is, uh, goes against the narrative that Richard is alive, that Richard walked away. This is an FBI employee that has a level of clearance, intelligence clearance, security clearance, so much so that he can have a conversation with his son-in-law, who is also a lieutenant colonel, that has a level of clearance that they feel that they can discuss this information, but it's a secret. Now, what he did with the cashier, well, he leaked. He leaked, and you know, and he knew he leaked because he went shh. He just couldn't stand it. He couldn't stand it. Maybe it's because maybe there's some little bit of goodness in him or whatever, or maybe it was bravado that he wanted to show, hey, I know the information on this soldier, that the parents are out there every day on the corner, asking and using the bullhorn and going up and down and trying to get people to listen to them to get information about their son. He knew it, and yet he didn't come and tell us at our many, because our rallies were all over El Paso. We were all over El Paso. It wasn't just one location. And so he could have easily come and tell us. But it was a secret. Shh. It was not meant for us to know. Why? We are Richard's parents. Why wasn't it meant for us to know? And so that was a huge break in the narrative that Richard walked away. But, you know, and that is a very powerful, because these are two powerful men, right? Two powerful men. Um, the next one, of course, was, let me see, who do I want to do next? Oh, yeah, Delirious. Um, Delirious is the next CID. She went to the CID. She contacted Team Farm Richard Halliday. She went to the CID. She went to the FBI to buck the narrative that Richard walked away. And the gist, there's a lot of information around what she has told us, but the main part of it is that Richard was somehow abducted, brought through the Santa Teresa, possibly abducted, coerced into a vehicle. And, it was that truck, this color truck, you know, with the shaved handles. Um, uh, Shaved handles, you can't get in and out of a vehicle like that. And it's a truck and it's a Ram, Anyway, we have all this information on it, um, which gives her claim legitimacy also. And so she says it went through the Santa Teresa port of entry, which is a port of entry that the LDS use. Okay, they use that quite a bit because they're going down. And they use the other New Mexico port of entry also. I think it's Columbia um, port of entry. So they use these two that go all the way down to Colonial Juarez, to Casa Grandes, Nova Casa Grandes, big area that is, a Mormon area. So, that gives it also a lot of power. Plus, there's a lot of children's orphanages in that area, or care centers on the map. It's a very curious area. And she's saying he was brought over into that area, and to make a long testimony short, that Richard's remains, partial remains, were buried at kilometer 29. Okay, and she gives us the coordinates for that area. So just as she even gives us the location and coordinates for that area, gives her uh, some legitimacy, but also who she is. She is very politically active in El Paso. So if she's going to give a wrong testimony, they would really jump on her and they would arrest her, right? I mean, she was running against, Veronica Escobar. If, if Veronica Escobar thought that what she was saying was false, Veronica Escobar would be jumping all over it, and she didn't. And so it was Veronica Escobar's and the political establishment's response to Delirious um, that was curious for us. Okay, it was very curious because to give false testimony to law enforcement is a crime, to law enforcement authorities is a crime. And she gave that testimony, and, that Richard's partial remains were over there at kilometer 29. And she maintains that to this day. And so, just the reaction um, is curious for us. So, and also she was CBP. I think she's retired CBP, and she was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. So that is also this is not someone that, she has a horse business and, uh, it's not like she's just hunting for some kind of, uh, I guess, some money or something like that. It was never like that. She went and reported it to the CID, and the response was very curious to us. And so, yeah, I she's just one of many, and one of many that are respectable in the community, in the El Paso community. Okay, that have a lot to lose if they're lying. She has a lot to lose if she's lying. Okay, so that's why that's important. The next one, um, I will say, is the officer of the court. The officer of the court, um, he he made a CID FBI complaint also to many, even the command structure, that Lalani Hart and Tavita Nusa, CID special agent, former CID special agent now, he's a dirty agent. He's a dirty agent that, his brother, quote unquote brother, is dirty agent Marlon Soto. And so, his his allegation is that they admitted to tampering with Richard's file, tampering with video, and claiming bodily injury. And so there's more to it. There's more to it. But the point is that that goes against the narrative that Richard walked away. Absolutely. This is more of a narrative that this is a cover up of foul play. And so you have Nadal Baim, foul play. You have Delaris, foul play. You have the officer of the court, which is then uh, cover up of foul play. And you have to remember that brought in the name of Lalani Hart and Tavita Nusa. And looking at Lalani Hart, what have we discovered? We've discovered a long list of criminal cases, right? A criminal history on Lalani Hart, and also on a questionable immigration status, a questionable family history. And, so with all of this, um, the officer of the court, he has a lot to lose if he is not right in what he's asserting and complaining about. And Lalani Hart, here, she really is a suspect. And, you know, all of a sudden you look and at the very beginning, I'm being told that her son Dallas Hart is Richard's platoon leader. And, it's like, whoa. So then that opens up for other people telling us that Dallas Hart is indeed Richard's platoon leader. And then you have this whole cover up of no, 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 he wasn't. Um, and this is all given to the CID and to the FBI. And what do? They they scrub Richard's file and they want to put him in cold case, right? They're like, okay, this is going a little too far here. We're going to be caught. We're going to be caught in our criminal activity and our dereliction of duty and our abuse of power, right? That's really the message that we got out of all of this. But it didn't stop there, because Lalani Hart herself then broke the narrative that was trying to get out there, and said that Richard's disappearance was foul play. It was a code red, a code red. So it was an internal murder of a whistleblower. That's what that code red means, an internal murder of a whistleblower to stop his testimony, to stop his witness in a court of law. And, that's Lalani Hart. So we have Nadal Baim, Deliris, Montanez Barrios, and the officer of the court, and Lalani Hart. And it doesn't stop there, because then, of course, the pressure was on Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, the chief of security of Fort Bliss, the professor at Park University. So you have Lalani Hart, who claims she's running the CID, because she has her boyfriend, and you have an officer of the court, and you have an FBI employee that has high level clearance, intelligence security clearance, and the son-in-law that is a lieutenant colonel in the 32nd, in the G3 of the 32nd AdCom, that also has high level security clearance. And then you have this. It's this is credible people. Credible people. I wouldn't call Alani Hart credible, but as a criminal involved in this case, and she's saying it's a code red, I think, because she has a close proximity to this foul play. And so, yeah, that makes that very, very interesting. And then, of course, the latest that bucks the narrative, that's a good way to say it. It bucks the narrative that of what they try to get through, and that is this Fort Bliss active duty soldier that has inquired, or requested a congressional inquiry, who also says he is a witness to statements made by those involved in the disappearance of Richard Halliday. Okay, so what he's alluding to, of course, he has taken the fifth and the sixth, but what he is alluding to is that Richard just didn't walk away. That's, he bucks the narrative also, and that's why I had to add him. And when he makes a CID statement, an FBI statement, when he gets some legal counsel to do it, which I don't blame him for that at all, then that's going to be, wow, groundbreaking. I think it's going to be groundbreaking. I'm hoping it's groundbreaking. I'm praying it's groundbreaking, because, we already have, how many is that? Nadal, and should I even count Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado? Then you have Lalani Hart. And I even asked Dallas Hart if he understood that he was a suspect in the murder of our son. And he said yes, he understood it. And, he never said, oh, he just walked away. And James Hart also, when I talked to him, was just like, oh, my son's a good boy, which to me alludes to that something bad happened, and when I first contacted through email, he contacted me through email. There was a defensive posture, and for an officer in the United States Army at Fort Bliss, in the 32nd AdCom, that shouldn't have been the case. There should have been, oh, I want to apologize for what you're going through, and we're really praying and hoping that you find, that we find Richard Halliday. And the witness testimony in our son's case it's very important for the public to understand the witness testimonies in our son's case and what's going on, because when you put it all together, it really does um, give you a better understanding of what happened to our son. And, the I want to read a little bit through going through all of the narratives. The one that really moved me again was Thomas Kane's testimony. And I'm going to read through it, what I posted, because we made several points on this, and that Thomas Kane's testimony introduces crucial information that directly contradicts the prevailing theory that Richard Halliday voluntarily left his post. So, several noteworthy points have emerged from this statement, from his statement. Kane's assertion that Richard may have become a wildlife, specifically mentioning coyote, suggests this suggestion challenges the notion that Richard simply walked away, right? And that there's a lot of dangers going on Fort Bliss. This is really uh, that's super important. Also, Kane's claim of an illegal ban on and retaliatory orders against a key witness in Richard's case, because it's not just the illegal ban, it is also the retaliatory orders against a key witness in Richard's case, implies significant misconduct within Fort Bliss. Absolutely. This casts doubt on the integrity of the command and raises questions about potential ulterior motives. This is Thomas Kane, the Director of Emergency Services, the Chief of Security on Fort Bliss at the time, right? So the allegations made by with previous concerns raised, um, uh, the convergence of testimonies from different sources highlights a consistent pattern of misconduct and interference within Fort Bliss. Absolutely. Um, Kane draws a parallel between Richard's case and I had to reread that, and it's like so heartbreaking. I can't even tell you what they put us through mentally and physically doing this, okay? It is absolutely, they are the most inhumane. The military leadership is so evil and inhumane, I just can't even tell you. Because they make us read through, compare Richard's case with Vanessa Guillen's case, okay? All right, because Vanessa Guillen was murdered and dismembered, Richard was murdered and dismembered. He's comparing them. And he's not saying Richard just walked away, okay? So Thomas Kane's testimony introduces critical information that challenges a prevailing narrative of Richard's disappearance and the mention of potential harm, allegations against the commanding general, corroboration with previous concerns, and parallels to past tragedies all point to a complex and deeply concerning situation. And I think that is, when you read through these five, it just, it, I don't know. How is your reaction? Let me know how your reaction is to these. The whole narrative that they were trying to give is blown apart. Is blown apart. And this is not me. This is Thomas Kane. This is that's a director of emergency services, right? This is a professor at Park University. This is an officer of the court, a a Fort Bliss whistleblowing soldier that was there. Um, this is a retired lieutenant colonel and CBP agent. This is um, a FBI informant that is the father in law of a lieutenant colonel in the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM. I mean, this is not just nobodies. So, for anyone to say we don't have uh, people coming forward, that's just not true. It's just not true. So, didn't Electra mention kilometer 29 as well? She mentioned the desert area. She pointed out a desert area, Danielle. And, maybe I should add her to this list that a paranormal also bucked the narrative and said, no, this is um, because FBI use law enforcement uses paranormals. Okay, so I think I will tomorrow. Team Find Richard Halliday. We're going to get together and we're going to put together um, because this takes so much time, right? I mean, I had to. It was almost 12 before I got on tonight. Um, this takes so much time, but I think Electra needs to be part of this list. And if anyone else thinks of others besides close family, I mean, all of us in the close family were like, no way did Richard just walk away, right? But we have other people that hold weight, and we're going to put this together and send this off to everybody. Like Ted Cruz, senators, and all that. Because when you put these together and you read through them, that, and even that ATF was at the stage task force find Richard Halliday meeting. Um, you know, it's yeah, it just when you put all that together, this is we have a dirty agent. This is a botched investigation. Absolutely a criminal enterprise that's being covered up, and people that are up to no good. And I haven't even, well, I should add, I think Amber Chase to this list because, and I think it was her. I think it was her. I don't know. I have to look. I have to look at the number again. But someone in those vile, vulgar messages said, "You will never find him." So I think that bucks the narrative that Richard just walked away. You know, it was very clear, and I probably should go through it. Um, I know it was Amber that said we judged him already. I mean, and I'm going to uh, whatever. I mean, she's just well, uh, she hasn't answered our question. Does she work in the same office as James Hart at the VA? Right? Does she work in the same office? The For disability for veterans disability benefits, the IDES Pablo at the VA on Fort Bliss. You know, is she friends with James Hart or coworkers or you know, right there? That would be that is a an important question, and maybe I should add that to this because I think she is a person that has bucked the narrative of Richard. Oh, Crabby Empath. Oh, yeah, that's a good one too. Crabby Empath. Um, yeah, yeah, Mitzi. He didn't just walk away. Absolutely. And that's what they try to do. But, should I put in there the Interpol? right? Should I put in there the federal criminal database workers? They all buck the narrative. Um, so yeah, but I think I should put Krabby Empath in there too, with um, Electra, the paranormal, because the law enforcement authorities use them. And so, they're just not just anybody, right? Um, Absolutely. Nobody is saying that has followed this case that Richard just walked away. We're talking about a missing soldier from Fort Bliss, and we're still waiting. They are dragging their feet, even though it's moving forward. But it should have been a couple years ago, right? It should have been a couple years ago. So we're very grateful for this active duty soldier on Fort Bliss. And yeah, this week is going to be a powerful week. And I just want to thank everyone. No further information about individuals at Hondo Pass. And Hondo Pass is also very interesting. You see, this is so many facets that we have to try to include. And, I get on here and I can talk for an hour easy. I could talk for 2 hours. I could talk for 3 hours. I could do, I said, I'm going to do a marathon because there's so much information to cover um, through this, because there's so many facets in this case. But Hondo Pass finding remains there is, we were told that, oh no, those aren't Richard. But we were told by the dirty agent Marlon Soto. You see, how can we, who dirty agent Marlon Soto told us that Nadal Bayim, oh, he's nobody. He's a nobody. He's a somebody. He's a somebody. And, for all, and to say that, when I called him up and when we notified the CID that Danae Katzen and Belen Rocha were related, he's like, oh, well, send me what you have. Send me what. No, no, no. You have the information. I'm giving you a heads up. You need to connect the dots. And now we connected the dots to 3905 Bliss Avenue and 3705 Bliss Avenue, which connects to, this defense attorney, right? This defense attorney that seems to be the defense attorney for Leilani Hart. And collaborating and conspiring with Leilani Hart, with Angela Kachurga, with David Poche. David Poche could absolutely tell us, his silence is so dangerous because he, to conspire with these people in the obstruction of this big murder just because he wants to keep his disability or whatever. Um, you know, uh, Texas is. Te- I think Texas just had another one put to death on death row of this crime going on, especially against a soldier. You know, uh, our soldiers have to be kept safe, right? I, I'm not saying they're more important than anybody else, but I'm saying if you can take pot shots, if you can murder and dismember a soldier, and you have internal cover up on it, and it's an internal takedown, and you participate in that, so I urge David Poche, and I attempted to write him. I hope that he got it, to let him know this is, you know, when this all breaks, it won't be a good situation to be sitting where he's sitting. That won't be a good situation. Um, So, okay, I'm just her friend or whatever. I don't know how good of a friend, but with friends like Lilani, who needs enemies? With friends like Angela Kucherga, because Angela Kucherga has a lot of questionable things, and the more that the investigation is on her, it's very questionable. And I think people are going to be shocked because she's like a hero and in Mexico. Well, I'm telling you right now, she's no hero. She's no hero. And um, it's heartbreaking because out of everyone, and I'm talking about General McConville, what he did to us with Lieutenant General Donna Martin and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. I mean, wow. That was, they just stab you right in the back. Right in the back. They are just heartless. But what Angela Kucherga worse. And I hope that people understand that she stabbed Fort Bliss in the back. She stabbed every service member in the back. She stabbed El Paso community in the back and the surrounding area and Juarez, Mexico, the people of Mexico. Okay? What she has done is just so bad, so bad. And, to me, maybe I haven't put together everything what the generals have done, uh, their evil, their level of evil, because maybe it's just as bad as Kucherga. But for me to talk to her on a Zoom call and to I just it was just so obvious that she just didn't care. That she has something else going on in her life that she doesn't have the time to care. So, yeah, it was bad. It's bad. Okay, that you would never find Richard just plain evil. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, they said so many horrible things, these vile and vulgar messages. Oh, we when you decide to homeschool in Germany, uh, you know, uh, and Ireland, those aren't two places where there's a lot of homeschoolers, right? When you decide to adopt two older boys, when you decide to buy an old derelict cottage in the middle of a Celtic boom where everybody's buying these beautiful fancy houses that you just unlock it and you walk in, and here we are buying a I don't even want to say a mud pit because it was, a crush. There was a crush, so a cattle crush. So you're talking about muck, right? You're talking about muck. And we had to, they're like, you're going to do that? You're going to clean that up? We did. And then we turned it into a little paradise out there. Um, we got the information from them. And that's why we wanted it to go on for so long. We just let them go on for so long before we let them know that we were tracing them. Um, you know, that's finally I had enough. It was like, okay, let's get rid of this. So, yeah, you could only take it for so long, but we did want to get the information from what they were saying, and very clearly Richard was murdered, very clearly. Nobody acts like that for months, months, day in and day out, every day sending messages for months. These people clearly are covering up. They're clearly scared. They're clearly trying to control the narrative. They're going behind our back and trying to control the narrative and stealing Richard's identity, stealing Team Farm Richard Halliday's identity, acting like they're, have something to say, like the family or something. Clearly, they are afraid because they know Richard was murdered, and it was brutal, and uh, there's a death penalty waiting. Life in prison, some prison sentence, something's going to happen, and and to have them as high of positions as they are, okay, because I really believe that Thomas Kane is part of them. Thomas Kane acted in fear right now. Um, uh, I think, but I think that he participated. Okay, he's a key suspect. Uh, yeah, absolutely. So that's why this is, the generals don't know what to do when you have the chief of security of Fort Bliss participating in the cover up of a murder of a soldier, maybe in the whole premeditative murder. Okay, I won't kill him, but tell me to turn off the cameras, tell me to get rid of the surveillance. I'll manipulate the surveillance or whatever. I got my finger on the button. Um, or maybe I have to transfer the remains out of here. I know how to transfer the remains because I have control over the gates, right? And the guards. So, I don't know how he participated, but I really believe that he participated because of red flags, red flags. So, all these different things going on. So, all right, everybody. I know I could talk for another hour, 2 hours, uh, but this is a happy day, and well, uh, I have a beautiful Mary Ruth, and you know, talking about this, just talking about Thomas Kane. Um, so please share it for today, a couple days. Please share all that I have put out there, and talk about the narrative. That's a great help to us. And also to sign the petition. I see that we have the petition signed. So share and sign the petition for the soldier, the Fort Bliss active duty soldier that has requested for a congressional inquiry, that has pleaded the fifth, that has pleaded the sixth, because he absolutely, uh, you know, I'll tell you more when I can, but he absolutely needs to have legal support, right? He needs to have legal support and all eyes on him when he is making his complaint, because we don't want him to be code redded, right? We don't want him to be code redded and shut up. So this is, or suicided, code redded, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, they find a way, make a way, because their criminal enterprise is so profitable, and but we can't allow it to happen. So I'm uh, asking for everyone to support this soldier, to keep him as safe as we can, right? Keep eyes on him, and that's why we have that. We didn't know what else to do, but to put out the petition for him to know that there are people that are looking out and paying attention. And we have over 300 signatures now, and I think we can double that. I think we can double it if we put forth a campaign for people to sign it. So thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you, Patty, for the prayers and the love. Thank you, Danielle, as always, for your prayers and love and brain power. And Mitzi, also, are you located in Texas? No, South Carolina. Danielle, thank you again. And Grace, thank you for coming on for your prayers. So, and Anicia, as always, for your prayers and love. Okay, and God bless you. I will be back